Why in opposition to the Sunnah have you remained single? Which has been asked by some newspapers in various places in a foreign country. May the peace of Allah be upon you and His mercy and blessings forever and ever. We read your letters to our master, who is extremely ill, and he said to us, "If I hadn't been so ill, I would have written a detailed reply to these most worthy brothers of mine who are inquiring about this. But the severity of my condition does not allow it. You write a very few brief points to those sincere friends and brothers employed in the Quran. The first, for 40 years now, it had been a time when in the face of the awesome attacks of atheism, there has been great need for truly devoted people who are ready to sacrifice everything. So I took the decision to sacrifice for the truth of the all-wise Quran, not only my worldly happiness, but if necessary, my happiness in the hereafter as well. It was not a question of taking temporary worldly wives, which is to follow the Sunnah. If I had been given 10 houris in this world, I would have been obliged to refuse them so that I might serve the truth of the Quran with true sincerity. For these secret atheistic committees are attacking so fiercely with such trickery and intrigues that in order to combat them, one has to make supreme self-sacrifice and to make the religious movement a tool of nothing other than divine pleasure. Some wretched men of religion and pious people endorsed the innovations because of the difficulties of maintaining their families, or they appeared to support them. But in the face of such awesome attacks as the abolition of the religious instruction in schools and the banning of the call to prayer, when it was imperative to sacrifice oneself entirely and to display supreme constancy and steadfastness and independence, I renounced the custom of marriage, which is a practice of the Prophet ﷺ, so that I would not do numerous things that are prohibited and could do many things that were obligatory and compulsory. 100 sins may not be committed for the sake of one thing, that is Sunnah. For in the course of these 40 years, some men of religion have felt themselves compelled to commit numbers of grievous sins and prohibited things, and to give up certain practices that are Sunnah or obligatory just in order to do one thing, that was Sunnah. Secondly, such commands as in the verse, "Marry woman of your choice," and the hadith, "Marry and multiply," are not constant and compulsory. They are voluntary and a Sunnah. They are also subject to conditions and do not apply to everyone all the time. Moreover, there is no monasticism in Islam does not mean that to remain single like monks is wrong and prohibited. Rather, as stated by the hadith, the best of people is the one most useful to people. It means advocating a social Islamic custom in order to serve society. For thousands of the righteous early generations of Islam and people of truth temporarily went into seclusion in caves. They isolated themselves from the ephemeral delights of this world so that they could devote themselves to working for their lives in the next. Since there were many of them who abandoned the world for their own eternal perfections and attainments, for a person now to give up this temporary transient world not for his own, but for the everlasting life of many unfortunates on a universal general scale, to prevent them from falling into misguidance and to strengthen their belief and save them, and to serve fully the reality of the Quran and belief, and resist the atheists both from outside the country and within. To do these things surely is not to oppose the Prophet's Sunnah, but to comply with its essential meaning. With the idea of winning an atom's worth of the maximum loyalty, truthfulness, and self-sacrifice displayed by the supremely veracious one Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, when he declared, "Let my body so expand in hellfire that no room remains for the believers," this wretched Sa'id chose to pass his life independently without marrying. Thirdly, the Risale Nur's students should not be told not to marry because others do so, for there are several classes of students. At the present time, as far as is possible, one class of them should temporarily refrain from meeting their worldly needs so that they do not lose their true sincerity and may persist in their complete self-sacrifice and maximum veraciousness. If they find a wife who will assist them in serving the Quran and belief, it will not damage their work. Praise be to Allah, there are numerous Nur students whose wives are no less devoted than themselves. In fact, in respect of the innate heroism and the sincerity arising from their compassion, which await no recompense, women may be even more devoted than their husbands. Most of the adult Nur students have married and followed this practice of the Prophet ﷺ. The Risale Nur says to them, "Your homes should each be a small madrasa Nuriya and place of learning, so that this sunnah is fully followed, and your children, the fruits of the sunnah, may be intercessors for you in the hereafter, and in this world, learning truly the lessons of belief, they may be true sons and daughters to you. Otherwise, as has happened to an extent these last 30 years, if the children are given only a secular education, in some ways they will be useless for you in this world, and in the next will complain about you, asking, why did you not save their belief? To grieve parents in that way is opposed to the wisdom of the illustrious Sunnah."